Oh, these, yeah. So this is the first genetic worksheet, so it's okay. So you have diploid cells, haploid cells, homologous pairs. You'll have autosomal chromosomes, sex chromosomes, female karyotype, and a male karyotype. So once you get those, I'll kind of explain them a little better. Okay, so a diploid means, so you see your diploid cell means that you have two inside of it. Okay? Di means two. A haploid, hap means one. So this is a cell with only one chromosome. Well, half a chromosome. Does that kind of make sense? Yes. Okay, so they're kind of, and then a homologous pair, or homo. Homo means same. So a homologous pair is a pair of chromosomes that are the same.
So it doesn't matter if it has 4 or 6, they have to just have
Yeah, they're the same, yeah. Typically, though, they do have, like, you usually have a pair.
Okay.
But yeah, they're just the same. I don't know how to say it. Let's see. The next one we have is autosomal chromosomes. So everyone will have autosomal chromosomes, and then they will have sex chromosomes. So when you look at this, I'm going to zoom in here. Your autosomal chromosomes you'll have 22 of, or 23. I don't know where the 23rd one went. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, don't worry about the numbers. But the autosomal chromosomes, these are basically, auto means body. Okay. Actually, auto means self, sorry, som means body, S-O-M. Like soma. Soma equals body, yeah. So autosomal chromosomes are chromosomes that control everything in your body. Okay. Everyone will have them. Sex chromosomes, though, are ones that control your reproductive organs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's what genetics is, you know, body and then reproducing.
Which will determine the sex of your
baby, yeah. So there's that. Next we have a female karyotype and male karyotype. So a karyotype is a chart that has everyone's chromosomes in it. Yeah, and there's actually 22. I got mixed up when I said 23 earlier, but yeah, you'll have 22 sets of autosomal, and then how you tell it's a male or female is if you look at the sex chromosomes.
Okay. Now, is this the same thing for the 20-some pair of chromosomes?
There's only 22. I got mixed up in my head about something.
Okay, so
but yeah.
And then,
Yeah, 22 and then sex chromosome.
okay. Mm-hmm. But this is what it is for the, if you have mom and dad's too.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is dad, and then this one is mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's different types of chromosomes.
Oh, you'll have to.
These are just the ones mom and dad, and
Yeah.
X and Y.
Yeah, mom and dad, X and Y. You'll inherit. So you'll inherit like this one from mom, or this one from dad, this 22, and then you'll inherit that 22 from dad. So you'll inherit, so the chromosomes will swap out, and you'll just inherit one from each, and however it's divided out is what you get. But for mom and dad, dad's X chromosome came from his mom, and this Y chromosome came from his dad. So for dad, you will inherit either his X or his Y. Oh, you won't because you're female. But for the female, we inherited our dad's X chromosome. And then we inherited our mom's X chromosome too. So yeah, you'll going into this, autosomal and sex chromosomes. Yeah, it's the beginning. So, and thank God it's the last chapter. So the pattern that genes are the pattern that genes are transmitted in families alleles, and this is true. Okay, so in this thing, you know, we were talking about it earlier. So some people, so I like to think about genes as your emotions. So we're just going to think about our genes as our emotions. So, and the different emotions that we have are called alleles. So you can have a sad gene, you can have a happy gene, you can have a mad gene. I don't know. But they're genes, so right, you don't see them, you kind of feel them, but your genes don't actually control your feelings. It's just an analogy. So how I'm feeling means that there are different variations of a gene. So the gene is emotions. Okay, where's my living one? Or feelings. Okay, so our genes are feelings. Okay. Different versions of feelings. You'd be happy, sad, or mad. These differences are known as alleles. Yeah. So we have different kinds of feelings. We have different kinds of genes. And those different kinds of genes are just called alleles, those differences.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Okay, so then for this other one, it says wild type of alleles are uncommon. Would that be false? Yeah.
They're very common.
They are.
Yeah, you always have wild type alleles. And that's the thing is, the reason why I put this in here is because a lot of people would have thought, true, you know, there are no, you know, wild type alleles are uncommon, but they are actually very common.
Okay, so like wild would be a feeling like being wild?
Or not feeling wild, sorry. A wild type allele is like, you know, like when you play a card game and you have the wild card, it could be any card.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what alleles are. It could be any kind of, you could have blue eyes, brown eyes.
Oh, okay, so it's not an actual.
It's not a feeling, no. Sorry.
Okay, I'm just writing. Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. A wild type allele is just, and that's a good question. That is a little misleading. But yeah. So are you okay with this though?
Yeah.
Okay. Mutant, and I don't think he'll ask about alleles too much, but mutant alleles always cause disease. This is false. Mutant alleles are uncommon. You typically don't have mutant ones. However, they don't always cause diseases. You can have mutation and then it doesn't really affect you.
Okay.
And a mutation could also be like, so if you have a family and your entire family has black hair, and your whole family has genes for black hair, but somehow you get red hair.
Mm-hmm.
That's because one of your genes mutated. You know, there's no red hair in your genes. There's nobody else has red hair, nobody has genes for red hair, but somehow your genes change, it gives you red hair. It's a mutation, but it doesn't hurt you. Not always dangerous, not always a disease. Dominant alleles are visible, yet the recessive alleles are not. They hide. So going back to Punnet squares, right? You learn about recessive and dominant and all that stuff. So a dominant allele will be uppercase typically, and a lowercase allele will be recessive. So this one dominates, the little one.
So the big R would be the recessive?
No, the dominant. And the little r will be recessive. So when you look at the big R and the little r, which one is typically expressed?
The dominant?
Yeah. See, now with certain diseases though, it's recessive. But I think that's only with, I believe that's only with sickle cell anemia. But typically, yeah, if you have, big R, little r, this is what's going to be dominant.
Okay.
Unless it's a recessive disease.
Okay.
Which means if you have this, then you have it. But that's only like one disease you guys will have. How much of lecture have you guys gone through?
Tonight, we'll have lecture.
Oh, okay.
Not over yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, for sure. A Punnet square predicts the genotype probabilities in children, and a pedigree shows past family relationships. So a Punnet square looks like this. Oh, massage day. So a Punnet square looks like this, and this is just the prediction. It shows you, it just predicts. You have this, you have this yellow thing, and you have this green thing, and how many different offspring are they going to show? So it predicts. You can kind of tell the future, this is your probability. A pedigree, huh?
Out of 4, right?
Yeah, typically. A pedigree chart looks like this, and the pedigree typically tells you the past.
Oh, okay.
So the pedigree will show you, this one's a good one. It'll show you what dad has, and it'll show you what mom has. And it kind of shows, so this is you, okay, right here. And then it just shows the past. So typically Punnet squares you can predict. Pedigrees though are the past. It's like the history of the gene.
Oh, okay.
So
Wild type then?
yeah, genes, alleles, all that great. Oh yeah, wild type female. Woohoo!
Well, now I get to.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the difference between the two. So then there are dominant recessive. What are two dominant recessive disorders? Where was I going with this? Cystic fibrosis and what was the other one? Huntington's. I believe those are both recessive. I think they're both recessive. You might want to take out the word dominant. I think I was just asking for examples, but this would be this Huntington's and cystic fibrosis would be a case if you got the two lowercase ones, then you'd have the disease.
They'd be recessive.
Yeah. So if the disease is recessive, if you get those recessive alleles, the lowercase ones, versus the uppercase allele.
Yes.
So. Predicting skin pigmentation is an example of dominant recessive inheritance. So we're going to pull up a Punnet square, and the Punnet square chart kind of looks like this. But do you want to go over this next Monday, or do you want to do this now when you learn it in lab? Have you had it in lab yet? I'm going to let him teach you guys how to do Punnet squares. Yeah.
I don't think they're so hard. We can probably just go on.
Okay. You want to do, okay. Because I don't want to teach you something and he wants you to learn some other way for his exam or anything like that. So, but yeah, typically while doing this worksheet, we would have just answered like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do an example. But these are provided so you can have something worked out. In addition, I want to just show you. So in this area, you're going to work out your problem, but this across, these are two separate tables.
Okay.
Okay, you don't.
One.
Yeah, you don't need to work this. They're two separate ones.
Okay.
So
yeah,
there's
we
no
can
one.
we can work on this next Monday.
Yeah, and that'll be nice right before the exam. Nice little review. So just kind of pay attention to that. So that's a type of dominance. As you can see, also in the Punnet square packet, I put 3 charts for you to practice with dominant recessive. There are 3 charts for incomplete dominance. Then there's multiple alleles. And these are like the different diseases, disorders, skin pigmentation. I mean, they don't all gender, inheritance, which will have to do with color blindness, or X-linked is colorblind. And then just some practice if you need extra practice in any of them. So it's just something that if you want to use it, you can. It's laid out. So that's that. So incomplete dominance occurs when a phenotype of a heterozygote is displayed. Like some people have two different eye colors. So to break this down, dominance usually means that there's one eye color. Okay, you have both brown eyes. However, some people have a blue and a brown because the phenotype, the physical, hetero means different. Okay, so heterozygote means two different colors, two different alleles, but they both show. So the dominance is incomplete.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Two diseases that express incomplete dominance is familial hypercholesterolemia. So basically, you can either have too much cholesterol, or you can either be normal, not too much cholesterol, or you can be somewhere in between. So it's incomplete. Okay. Another one is sickle cell anemia. You can either have sickle cell anemia, or you don't have sickle cell anemia. However, some people kind of have half and half. When they have some sickled cells and then some not, so it's incomplete. Yeah, so those are disease, and that's the hard part of genetics is because typically, we're told you have this one, and then you have a carrier. But with sickle cell anemia and this disease, you have in between.
Okay, so it's...
I know.
Yeah.
And then they can also be classified as carriers. So it can get confusing, but maybe next Monday or even Friday if you want to, because we're going to go over all this, what we did today again. But oh, no, I'm not doing one this Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm going to be away. Whoops.
Monday,
Yeah, Monday. So next we have Punnet Square practice, sickle cell anemia, but we're going to skip that now. The next type we have is codominance and multiple alleles. Great. So the allele, remember, is like the letter. Okay. Some people can have multiple letters. Yay. So codominance is like when they are at the same time. Confusing. And this trips people up a lot with blood types. If you have type A blood, you can have two different genes for it, but you'll have the same phenotype. The phenotype is type A. The genotype is either IA, or IA little I, because the IA dominates it. Yeah. So blood type is kind of difficult, but this is just a table to lay it out. If you're type AB, you're going to have IA, IAB, and if you're type O, you're going to have little I, little I.
Okay.
So this is just to show you. It lays it out.
You can skip this part, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just matching.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have not hit this, have you?
No.
Okay. Well, you want to save it for Monday, or do you want to do this part? Or are you okay?
Yeah, we can finish this part if you want.
Okay. I just don't know. Yeah, this I'll just be talking to you, so that's vocab. Occurrence of the same phenotype as families is known as genetic heterogeneity. So this happens with different genes. They encode the enzyme that catalyze different steps in the same biochemical pathway. A lot of words there. Yep. Two inherited genetic conditions. So this depends on your genes. Hereditary deafness and blood clotting disorders. The next one, traits that affect one or more genes in the environment are known as multifactorial traits. Yep, because there's many factors. It could be your family, it could be your diet. And then there are 3 examples of polygenic traits: height, skin color, and eyes. Because basically polygenic traits are determined by more than one gene pair. So, so I know it's, so that's that. Let's not save it. Next, we're going to go through.
Do we have time to do one more?
I believe, unless you got to do something.
No, I have time, but
Yeah.
we might not get through it all. But I think this one, if I could just do some of this,
Yeah.
and the other ones I think I can do on my own.
You think so? Okay. Yeah, because it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the reproductive disorders and then this
Yeah, it's pretty much like what is.
genetic disorders.
Yeah. Just something to keep in mind is anything, yeah, these are going to be the main ones.
Okay. I can probably, I think
Yeah.
you've already posted it, like answers, I can double check my
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll do it and then I can check my work. But
Yeah.
I feel like these, like if I go with you, like I'll remember them better than just trying to like copy.
Copy paste. Okay, so do you want to do number 4 now?
We have time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're going to skip number 2 and 3 because that's just, filling out stuff. Next one, sex-linked and chromosome disorders. Good catch, though. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, because this is all like writing.
Yeah.
Um,
Then if I have questions or whatever, I can just ask it next week.
yeah, and it'll probably, like, if I tell you now, I'll just fry your brain. And you'll be, like, sitting through lecture, like,
And then I have lecture in a bit. So.
you have lab. Okay. So when gender is inherited, it involves a few gene pairs. This is false. Inherited gender has to do with your chromosomes.
Oh, this one.
Your chromosomes, not your gene pairs. Gender is determined by male sperm. This is true. Yeah, so the men are the ones who really decide.
Look at that.
I know, right? There's actually this king, I don't remember who he was, but he had like all these wives. And whenever they didn't produce him a son, he'd kill them. But the thing is that it was his sperm that didn't produce the kid. Yeah. So the thing is usually males are. So this is a male, XY. This is a female, XX. So the male, this is dad, this is mom. So the male, depending on, if you get an X, you're a female. If you get Y, you're a male. So the dad's sperm is what determines it. Pretty neat. Right? So a male will develop in presence of the SRY gene. So your SRY gene, so if you have your chromosome, this is your Y chromosome, kind of looks like this. The SRY gene is kind of a segment on it. When that happens, when the baby detects that, then it'll become, when the body detects it's a male, it'll start producing a male. When there is no gene, then it'll just be a female by default.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's pretty neat.
Yes.
This is a Punnet Square thing, but we were fine. What is false of X-linked traits? So some X-linked traits
What is
it could be like color blindness.
Oh.
So typically males have more X-linked traits than females do. They express it more. So like with color blindness, okay. So you have an X chromosome, so this is our female. Just say you have the trait for color blindness. Okay? In the female, she will not be colorblind because she has a backup trait that will cancel that out. So woohoo, yeah, good for us. In a male though, you have this gene and this, or you have Y and X. A female will have the gene, you'll get the gene for colorblindness from mom. He doesn't have an X, he doesn't have backup, so the male will be colorblind. Because he doesn't have backup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and typically, I only know one girl who's colorblind, and that's like super rare. Like females are typically not colorblind, males are. So yeah, it's pretty neat. 2 X's, woohoo! Yeah? I gotcha. That's funny. I think I know that. Let's see now. So what is false? The thing that's false is the Y chromosome has more genes than the X. The X has more genes, okay? So this is what they're labeled. This is the name of those chromosomes. But in reality, an X chromosome looks like this, and a male chromosome, or the Y chromosome, looks kind of like that. So which has more genes? The bigger one. The bigger one, yeah. But the things that are true is X chromosomes do not correspond with alleles in the Y, or X chromosomes do not have corresponding alleles on the Y. You know, they don't match, which is true. X-linked traits predispose males to getting disorders because they don't have that X chromosome to back up. So yeah, that's true. And then the second X chromosome in the female serves as backup. So with color blindness, this is the differences. So if an X chromosome will have 1,500 genes, and then the male chromosome will have 231. Oh, wow. Yeah, they're defective. They're defective. They have less genes than we do. But then yet they get to decide what our kid is, so that's not fun. Why? I guess they had to be balanced somehow. Since there's not a second X chromosome in the male's phenotype expresses any gene on the single X. This is true. So typically, because there's no second X in the male, if there's any gene on here from mom, so this is why some boys look more like their mom than their dad, is because there's no backup, there's no sharing. They'll just look like their mom because their Y chromosome doesn't do much. Which is funny because I look more like my dad, but you know, whatever. Oh, no, this has to do with diseases though, actually. Oh, okay. So if mom has a disease and she has a kid, that kid will have the disease. Oh, okay. 2 X-linked traits commonly found in men are color blindness and hemophilia. And hemophilia is a blood clotting disorder. Basically, with males who have hemophilia, if they get cut, they just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed. They don't clot. I mean, maybe over time, but it just takes a lot longer. Hemophilia is known as the bleeder's disease. It's a blood clotting disorder, so the blood does not clot. Basically, if mom has the thing for it in a male, there's no backup, so he'll have the bleeder's disease. With a female, so just say you get this from mom and this from dad, dad's chromosome will back you up. Technically, that's your dad's grandma's chromosome, but he got that from his grandma, so you don't have to thank him. You can just thank her. Thank you. But yeah, that's that. 3 different ways gender affects phenotype. I just asked for an example. Let's see. So there's a sex-limited trait. An example is the structure and function of male or female is affected. So this could be either beard growth or breast growth. So depending on your sex, that'll determine if you have a beard or if you have breasts. Thankfully. It's limited to the sex. It's limited to what you are. A sex-influenced inheritance has to do with what gender you are and how that inherits it. Alleles dominant in one sex but recessive in another, so baldness. So heterozygous males, they're bald. Heterozygous females, not bald. Yeah. So you'll hear like male pattern baldness. That's what it's referring to. Genomic imprinting. Expressions are different, but this depends on the parent. The phenotype varies in severity onset of age and the symptoms. So the phenotype could be like the disease or what's physically there. And this is like, so we're going to say diabetes. The diabetes disease varies. Some people have really bad diabetes based on severity. Some people have different kinds of diabetes based on the age, and they have different symptoms. So, but it kind of depends on the parent and if you get that from them. Yeah, this is boring. Sorry. Now we're going to jump into chromosome disorder. So this we were all talking about gender disorders, a matter of sex, whatever your sex is, that depends on whatever you are. Now we're going to talk about chromosomes. And this with chromosome disorders, so chromosomes, when we looked at that first sheet, we looked at the karyotypes, right? The gene disorders are going to have to do if you see like letters. If there's letters, it's a gene disorder. With the chromosomes, it's kind of like the shapes. So like with Down syndrome, if you have 3, this is why I was thinking 23, if you have 3 of chromosome 21, then you're going to have Down syndrome. If you have more or less chromosomes than you're supposed to. So that's the chromosome disorder. Are you missing a chromosome, or do you have too many chromosomes? And if you have too many or too much or too little, which one is it? So I think the chromosome disorders are a little easier to grasp because you can see it. Versus the gene ones is kind of like you're looking at letters. So 3 versions of chromosome disorders. More or less than 46 chromosomes, a rearrangement of the chromosomes. So sometimes the chromosomes, so they're supposed to swap with their pair, but sometimes they swap with the wrong pair. Yeah. And then you can also have a mutated or abnormal chromosome, so one that becomes damaged. But it depends on what chromosome is crossed. You don't have to worry about it, just worry about the diseases that are there. But yeah, it's not good. So non-disjunction means that the chromosome numbers are abnormal. This is false. So normal means euploid. So euploid, you want that. Yeah, you want normal. Normal is good in this case. Yep. Non-disjunction means that they didn't separate all the way, and when they don't separate all the way, that's what causes you to have a lot of chromosomal disorders. So non-disjunctional chromosomes basically lead to disorders. Oh, genes. Actually, I had an English teacher, and he's like, "How do you tell if someone's a boy or a girl?" And I'm like, what? And he's like, "You unzip their," or he's like, because your genes zip and they zip up in your body. But he's like, you unzip their genes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awful. You'll see, like if you're in biology, you'll see how the genes intertwine and they come apart and everything. And that's called unzipping. But I'm like, oh my God, you English teacher. No, because he's like, you like science? And I'm like, yeah, science is better than English. Anyway, so poly means many. So polyploidy involves having too many sets of chromosomes. Aneuploidy, so an means without. Mm-hmm. This involves having, one extra or one more. So you have either one more extra or one missing chromosome. So poly, so when you look at polys, so these are your chromosomes. Too many sets. So you'll have like 22 sets, right? But if you have too many, so you have a pair here, you have 23, you have 24. Try not to make these look like letters. Too many sets is poly. You have too many sets. The sets are the 2. But if you have aneuploidy, this means that you have one more So this is your chromosome pairs or whatever. You have one more, or you have one missing.
So it's not there.
Yeah. So one of them has to do with like the single, one chromosome, one more, one less. One of them has to, and the poly has to do with the sets.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just if you see it in your book. Aneuploidy is caused by disjunction, while polyploidy is caused by the formation of a diploid gamete. So this is what they are caused. If you have a non-disjunctional chromosome, you're going to have aneuploidy. You're either going to have too many or too little. If you have a diploid, so normally you would have a haploid gamete. That's normal. But if you have a diploid one, that's what's going to cause you to have multiple pairs. I know this is a lot of vocab and you haven't even read it, so it's okay. Yeah. I think the biggest thing to get from this, though, is these.
Okay.
Is just what the disorder is and how it affects it. I really think the other stuff I think is a little bit too much biology or genetic stuff, but. So you have trisomy 18, trisomy 21, and trisomy 13. You have Edwards syndrome, Down syndrome, and Patou syndrome. Okay. And basically, you can look at, I'm going to pull up a karyotype. So this is Edwards syndrome, and this is what, oh no, karyotype. And if you look at it, you're supposed to have 2, but you have 3. Okay, so, and this is chromosome 18. Okay.
On the chromosome 18.
Yes, that's why it's called trisomy 18. If you have trisomy 21, Down syndrome, chromosome 21 is going to have 3.
In the 21.
In 21.
Okay.
And then what was the other one? 18, I don't remember. But yeah, that's the point. 18, 13, yeah. And these are just the signs and symptoms of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we have a chart in the back page. So these are the different kinds of male and female abnormalities. For the male, you have Klinefelter syndrome. This is when you inherit an extra X chromosome.
An extra X.
Yeah, and so you may get mom's X or dad's X, it doesn't know. This is caused by non-disjunction, typically because you're XXY. This is going to be a male because it's XY. Okay, so this says I'm a male, but this extra X says that he's going to look like a female.
Is that in those cases where they have like boy can have, or a person can
Yeah.
have both reproductive?
Yeah, like a hermaphrodite. Yeah, kind of. I think this would be similar, but yeah, sterile. That's something else too. Typically, people who have chromosomal, they can't reproduce. Because the thing is, they either have, they're hermaphrodite, so they may have.
Their
I don't know.
chromosomes wouldn't be able to
Develop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your reproductive system won't be developed. And can you imagine having female hormones in the male's body? I mean, we just went over menstrual cycle. That just wouldn't work.
That's what it is. Like it's not a male or female. It's kind of like in between.
Yeah. Basically, I believe with this one, it will have like male genitals, but this person will look like a female. But then, what is it? Is it a male or a female?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a lot of ethical things that can arise from it, but it's pretty there. And then next you have Jacobs syndrome. And Jacobs syndrome is XYY. And this is like, whoa, where did that extra Y come from? So this is a male because it's XY. And the extra Y syndrome means that they'll probably produce a lot more testosterone. So because they're going to be producing a lot more testosterone, they're going to be like, mentally retarded. No, I'm kidding. Testosterone doesn't make you that. But they're going to be tall. They're going to be mentally retarded because they have too much testosterone, not because they have testosterone. But and then they're going to be violent because they're really aggressive. Another male abnormality is when you have, now this is OY, but that's how it'll be in your test is OY. But really, you just get the Y. A baby that forms the Y, there's no X material, and the baby will not survive. Because the Y chromosome, remember, is only like this big. Well, the X chromosome is that big. So it doesn't, so it won't survive. Female abnormalities, however, if you get an X chromosome and no Y, you can still survive. You can survive on one X. I know, but it's another disorder. So, non-disjunction, abnormal ovum, X-sperm, X-sperm. I don't know what that was all about. Short, no breast development, loose folds on skin and back of neck. So you can look up pictures. There's probably pictures in your book. Next, you'll have XXX, super female. Tall, thin. You'll have some menstrual irregularities, but no other problems. And I think the menstrual irregularities, kind of like with the Jacob syndrome or the super male, the tall, mentally retarded. So if you have an extra Y, you're tall, mentally retarded, and you're violent. If you're a super female, you just need tall and thin. Some menstrual stuff. But the reason why you have menstrual irregularities and the reason why you get the violence is a hormonal thing. In the male, it's too much testosterone. In the female, an extra X will lead to hormonal stuff, and that's why you have the menstrual.
Okay.
Does that, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of nice to have 3 X's versus. Plus, you're tall and you're thin. Tall and thin. What's this? Genetic diseases are caused by mutations. A genetic disease can result in the development. A genetic disease that can result in the development of nervous system problems is known as fetal ketonuria. And if I look this up, you will see this ingredient. So this is what the disease is, but you will see this paste Diet Coke. This is an ingredient on Diet Coke.
Oh my God.
I know, and we drink this. See, there we go, right there. Yeah, fetal ketonuria.
And this is a disorder?
It can lead to genetic disorders. And some people just have the disorder with this is if a baby has too much of this, it can lead to, they just can't get rid of it. I don't quite remember why it is, but I just know it's on Diet Coke. It's in Diet Coke. It's probably in other diet. Yeah, it doesn't meet any of the criteria, whatever. Yeah, so it's pretty awful. But I thought that was interesting. I don't know if I put that in the worksheet or not.
Yeah, I think we can stop there if you want.
Yeah, this is just talking about how to find it. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't want to confuse you, so it's fine.
Yeah. I think I'll be back
Monday, when you
Monday when
know.
I shut up.
Yeah.